And it's that time again. Welcome to CramTime. Welcome to another video. Today we'll be discussing how to graph inequalities fast. We start right now. Since this is the introduction video to the playlist about inequalities that I'm making, I'm going to quickly go over what exactly an inequality is. So last unit we covered equations. Equations are called equations because the term on one side is equal to the term on the other side. Now here we have inequalities, simply saying the term on one side is not necessarily equal to the term on the other side. It could be greater than or equal to, less than or equal to, greater than, or simply less than. That being said, inequalities can be graphed in two kinds of ways. We can graph an inequality on a number line, which is a very simple process that would take me 10 to 15 seconds to teach you, or graphing a linear inequality, which is on an xy axis kind of graph, and that would take maybe a minute or two, and I'm going to go over both of those in this video. The first thing I'm going to do is show you how to graph inequalities on a number line, and we're just going to work through these problems. So the first problem is that x is less than 3. So the first thing we want to do is denote where 3 is, since that is the term that we're working with. So 3. And I draw an open circle unfilled because it is less than 3 and not equal to and less than 3. So I draw an open circle. And since it's less than 3, so it's all the numbers less than. So it could be 2, 1, 0, -1. So I just draw an arrow this way. And that is how you graph the inequality for x is less than 3. Now I'm going to zoom through the next 3 examples. The next inequality I'm going to work on is x is greater than -1. So similarly as we did in the previous problem, find -1, open circle again because this inequality does not include -1. And since x is greater than -1, it could be 0 and above. So I draw an arrow going right. Now for number 3, I have x is greater than or equal to 1. So again, 1 is that number that I was given, so I'm going to go over here and draw my circle. But since it includes 1, it's greater than and equal to, that line underneath symbolizes the equal to part of it. I'm going to fill in the circle to include the 1. Now greater than or equal to 1, so I'm going to go greater than, so that's 2 and 3. And then number 4, x is less than or equal to -1, so I find -1, I fill in the circle because it includes -1, and the inequality says that x is less than or equal to -1, so it could be -2, -3, and so on, lesser numbers, so I pull the arrow left. So now we're moving on to graphing linear inequalities, which are on an xy axis. So there are two ways to go about this. There's the easier but longer way, my opinion at least, and the harder but shorter way. So we're going to go over the easier and longer way first, and that is working with intercepts. So we want to find what the x-axis, where the line intersects with the x-axis and where the line intercepts with the y-axis, and that way we can draw our inequality, the graph of our inequality at least. So when we want to find that x-intercept when the line goes through the x-axis, that is when y is always equal to 0. So what we simply do is plug in 0 for y right here, so then we end up getting 3x is less than 2, and then divide each side by 3, and then x is less than 2/3, but since it's an intercept, x equals 2/3 is the intercept, so we're just going to move that aside. And now we're going to go back in here, and the line intersects with the y-axis when the x is always 0, so if x is 0, now we have -2y is less than 2, divide by -2, divide by -2. Usually it flips signs, but since this is just an intercept, it's really just equal to -1. So again, I'm going to take this, move it down here, shorten it just for practicality, get rid of this. So now that we have this information, we can go in and graph it. So I know that x is equal to 2/3, so that's around here, and y is equal to -1, so that's around here. So then my graph would go like that through those two. Well, that's the easy part. Now we have to do the hard part. Not necessarily hard, but now we have to test. So essentially we need to find out which way is less than and which way is greater than. And oh, I made a quick mistake. This line should be dotted because it's not less than or equal to, it's just less than. So this shows a less than. So back to what I was saying, we have to find out whether the graph is less than beneath it or above it. So we do this by testing. So what we do is we're gonna grab a point, always look for the 0, 0. So this point right here is 0, 0. That's the coordinate. So we're gonna plug this in here, 0, 0. So 0 minus 0 is less than 2. So that means 0 is less than 2. That is true. And since that is true, that means this entire side above the graph, this whole part, fulfills the requirements of this inequality. So that is how you correctly graph this inequality. Now we're going to go ahead and look at the harder but faster way of doing it. All right, let's get it done the fast way and we'll be on our way. So the fast way requires us converting this equation to a slope-intercept form. So a y isolated on the left side and everything else on the right. So subtract 3x from both sides and we get negative 2y is less than negative 3x plus 2. Now we divide each side by negative 2. And remember, if you divide or multiply by a negative, when you have a less than or equal to, or less than or greater than sign involved, you have to flip the sign. So we get y is greater than 3 over 2x minus 1. And now we understand that negative 1 here is our y-intercept, so that's right here. And we know that the slope is rise over run, so we go up 3, 1, 2, 3, and over 2. Oh, I'm sorry, 1, 2, 3, and over 2, 1, 2. So this is where our point is, and this would be our graph. And since that is our graph, we still go ahead and test the points. So we have 0, 0 over here, plug that in. 0 is less than 2, we shade in right there. As some of you may have noticed, I should have used a dotted line to draw the graph. And that concludes this video on graphing inequalities. If you're currently cramming for a test, click on the correlating playlist in the description. If this video and channel were of value to you, hit that subscribe button and like the video. I'd love to hear your video requests and feedback in the comments section. Thanks for your support and stay safe.